In December 2012 we had a storm which, as you remember, knocked a hole in the sea wall, the railway dike, not the harbour, thinner version of the dike there, and that stayed open for a while, and then the council collected some Lego blocks, concrete blocks, and brought them down to Lossie and filled up the hole, and did quite a good job of it with no trouble during several course days. Then one day I went along, and there's a big thing pecking away at the wall there, and removing the blocks. Apparently they were going back up to Elgin where they were needed, and there you are, there's the device picking them off, and in a couple of days they were gone. Of course, we then had a storm came along, just as the hole was reopened, and it poured in. Didn't do any more damage, nothing terribly serious. But it was quite spectacular. A lot of people came along and took photos of it. And afterwards, there was a bit of a mess, but there had been a bit of a mess before, so it really wasn't that big a problem. But you can see the section through that wall there, that it's not really the greatest of walls. It looks as though it's kind of random rubble on the wall. I hadn't realised that before, and not solid block. So stuff got piled up, and then the men came back in, and you can probably just see there the reinforcing bars being built up, ready for creating the new wall. So first of all they hooked a muckle great hole there and started to fill it up with concrete to give something to work on, and then they brought more concrete and built it up. There's the concrete coming there with a great long thing. It strikes me something like a stork. I couldn't say a pelican, but that's different. And you can see it being poured in there. It's brought the level of the concrete up to ground level, and you can see the first of the rebars, the reinforcing bars, are in position there. Couldn't help smiling when I saw what the lorry was called, but there you are. Maybe we live in hope rather than expectation. Okay, so they brought the rest of the reinforcement along, and you can see the reinforcement, in fact, is for concrete which will only be roughly half of the wall thickness. But very, very well reinforced. The only problem with reinforcement, of course, is to make sure that you cover it with concrete that is sufficiently dense to prevent oxygen getting in, and the salt water, of course. Otherwise you get severe corrosion of the reinforcing bars, splitting the concrete open. There you are, everything being tied together there. The man who drew the short straw out on the far side. And as you see it all going along there. And then they started to bring up shuttering, so that they could pour the concrete in, and in 3 or 4 fills of the shuttering they made their way along from the one ragged edge to the other ragged edge. Plenty of rubbish left lying around, of course. That was to be cleared up afterwards. And you can see, taken from the other side there, you can see a solid slab of concrete full of reinforcement. Then they started to build the skin. This is just a can't think of the word, cosmetic. cosmetic covering for the concrete, and this they used up the existing stone there and at the far end as well. An interesting thing to me is that they used a technique that is never anywhere else in Lossie. This business of using little stones to fill up spaces between big stones. I mean, the basic principle is the same, that any stone has got to be on top of two stones so that it locks it in position. So it's a technique that's nowhere in Lossie. Every second house up in Dufton, if you go and look there. And on the top, ready for making the capping, we had plenty of bits sticking up. Made me think of the Maginot Line, which was there to stop the Germans invading France. Turned out to be a waste of money. Okay, so there we are, there's the whole thing being built there now. And there's the stone, the composite stones which were used to finish it off because there wasn't enough existing stone. I threw that in just as a reminder of the power of the sea, in case you'd forgotten that the whole purpose is to have something strong enough to stand. That bit there has lasted 100 years, so I suppose it's not too bad. So there you are, there's the top being completed. Man in orange never seemed to get his hands dirty, so it must be management. And there's the finished product. Nicely finished with the composite stones completing the job, and the concrete cap right across the top there. Just as a reminder that when you're looking at this wall, you really have to say to yourself, the point of building the whole structure there was that the north pier protected the south pier, and the north pier protected the South Sea wall, so that everything hitting the South Sea wall was pretty well oblique. And what the railway company did was to steal an extra few yards so that they could put the goods platform, that's still there, the goods platform, on the site, and in doing so they made a little nuke in the corner there, and that's where the failures have been over the years. That's a steady cause of concern, because it's just a slightly different angle, totally different strength, and totally different behaviour. Afterwards they cleared up the junk round about there and made pretty patterns with the cobbles, and cleared the whole thing up. And then one day they were all gone. That was last week, and you can see now there's the finished job, all clear, tarmacadam for the bits where the cobbles seem to have been insufficient. And this morning's newspaper, just as I was about to start doing this morning's newspaper has relief as hole fixed in gale hit seawall. £500,000. So not too bad. Councillor John Cow sitting there with a nice picture of the wall, picture of the anchor. And what they're saying is they've managed to get everything ready in time for the tourist season. Just one wee thing, John. They haven't remembered to give the playground that little bit of polish, which the kids love, in my experience, best of all. The things they have are for the little kids. These are for the near teenagers, and they really enjoy that. So just in case you'd forgotten, that's a wee reminder. So well done, nearly.